Chapter 16 Domes of Omdurman. I got to know the Qadi of Omdurman, the Muslim judge whose place in Islamic society combined religious and secular authority in matters of law. A strong supporter of Mahdism, he took me across the river to where the Mahdist stronghold sprawled. Though built from the rubble of old Khartoum, the streets of Omdurman are as much a contrast to the orderly modernity of the new capital as anything can be. This part of the country is steeped in history. We passed the famous gunboat Malik, whose guns destroyed the Mahdi's tomb by Kitchener's orders, now inoffensively moored beside the Governor-General's palace and converted into a yachting clubhouse. Sturdy, long-legged Sudanese, with white turbans and teeth gleaming against ebony faces, looked at us with the proud sternness that made me feel how perpetually close to the surface a man's feelings can be. No Arabian Reserve or hauteur here. At the junction of the twin Niles, the judge stopped his car. "Take a photograph of the wedding of the blue and white Niles. It should go well with your collection. It is symbolic of our country." The ways of the East were still with us, in spite of our motor transport. We stopped at cafe after cafe to sip tea or greet some old acquaintance, called in at the judge's mango grove to taste the new crop, talked of the future of the Sudan. At one stop, we were just getting out of the car when the judge pulled me urgently onto the ground beside him. As I crouched low, expecting an attempt on our lives at least, thundering feet passed in a cloud of dust. As the wildly running creature dwindled away into the distance, my companion laughed. "The governor's ostrich has escaped again." "But doesn't anyone stop him? They can kill you. They are dangerous." "No, because he is the governor's ostrich. He will come back eventually. In any case, he is going towards Omdurman, which is a sanctified place. Who am I to stop him?" Even religionists can have a sense of humor in the Sudan. We picked up an enthusiastic youth, now employed by the Mahdi Daira. He had been educated by the Mahdists, and his grandfather had been a bayraktar, a standard-bearer, at Omdurman. His excited gestures and, I thought, over-statistical mind contrasted with the quiet humor of our mellow Qadi. For the rest of the journey he spoke volubly and with blazing eyes about the 4 million supporters of XVI, the 10,000 graduates of Mahdist schools, the £50 million cotton crop, and the £24 million now being spent upon rural uplift and development plans. The Mahdi's silver-domed tomb rises majestically above an immense open, sanded space which is the mosque and parade ground of the Mahdi men. Demolished by the British after the rebellion, it is only recently that Sir Syed has been allowed to erect it again. It was, I noticed, surrounded by a stone wall and iron gates. Opposite it is the house of some members of the Mahdi entourage, containing relics of the time, the Mahdid, and a part of the original dome from the first tomb. I had permission to photograph the tomb from the outside. Then we went into the museum, with its collections of Mahdi knives and spears, patched cloaks of the dervishes, and guns captured during the attack on Omdurman. Without thinking, I levelled my camera at one of the exhibits, a carved blunderbuss with the name of Mahdi engraved upon the barrel. In a flash, my hand was jogged. "Sorry, no photographs." I was up against it again. We went for lunch with one of the Mahdist sheikhs of the town, eating the not-too-palatable gluey beans that are rather highly thought of, but must be an acquired taste, a soup of monkey nuts, and rice with various garnishings of vegetables and meat. This was the day of the great demonstration before the tomb, and the festival which follows the fasting month of Ramadan. Omdurman started to wake up. If I had been impressed by the shouting thousands before the Daira at Khartoum, I was overwhelmed by the marching and counter-marching of the teeming masses of white-robed stalwarts who turned out that afternoon to sing and cheer, to group and regroup, to parade their banners from Kordofan and Nuba, from north and south, before the shrine of their leader. Everyone was there. I went to pay my respects to the Mahdi in a tent where his eldest son, Syed Siddiq, immaculate in snowy turban, was making ready for his speech before 100,000 people. Sheikh el-Hindi, one of the most important leaders of the West Sudan, was there with his enthusiastic contingent, their camels and swordsmen, their banners and slogans. Only one thing was missing: music. Like the Wahhabis and unlike their own opponents, the Marganists, the Mahdists consider bands and music to be bad form and irreligious. This was an excellent chance to get to know the real leaders, at least of this community, in the Sudan. I met the hereditary king of Dongola, who now represented his country as a member of parliament, the Speaker of the House, Judge Shangaiti, the ulema, or religious leaders, who had been with the first Mahdi on the field, and young Yahya el-Mahdi, the younger son of the chief, who was an undergraduate at Balliol. He lent me his car for the whole stay, complete with driver. I had been excused attending the mass prayers before the tomb, on the grounds that I might be allowed to take photographs of the outside of the building. While the sermon was in progress, I climbed to the top of the tomb, interpreting my permission rather widely, and got some very good shots of the concourse of Muslims bowing Meccawards. Then, after removing my shoes, I went into the actual interior of the tomb. The grave of the Mahdi is covered by a wooden, polished sarcophagus, rather to one side of the high chamber. On the other side is a large framed banner. This is the blood-stained standard of the Mahdi himself, and on it the words, "No God but Allah, and Muhammad his prophet. Muhammad the Mahdi, successor to the prophet of God." The shrine keeper, that venerable veteran of Omdurman, seemed to eye me narrowly. As is customary at the shrines of saints or kings, I lifted my hands in prayer and recited the first chapter of the Quran. The recitation seemed to reassure him a little, and he stood aside as I moved forward to face the sarcophagus. I could see that there was not enough light coming in through the stained glass windows to make sure of a sharp picture, and I did not have time to experiment. It might be now or never. I had my flash apparatus in the car and decided to go back and get it. Saluting the keeper, I walked slowly back to the car. This might cause a row. I might have got away with a hurried picture by existing light, but whatever would it look like if I went in there again, complete with a bulky flash apparatus, and started popping off bulbs all over the place? As I passed them, the 100,000 enthusiasts were deep in prayer. I did not want their disapproval to be unleashed upon me. I decided to use the element of surprise. 5 minutes later, I was back at the shrine. The aged one was nowhere to be seen, and a youthful minion let me inside the locked burial chamber. I thanked him and knelt on the thickly carpeted floor, my back to the door. He left me to it. I took 3 midget flashbulbs out, put one in the gun, took aim at the sarcophagus, and pressed the button. It did not fire. Either I was in a place so holy that photographs could not be taken there, or else there was something wrong with the bulb. I took out another bulb and fixed it in the gun. It went off with a blinding flash. Still no sign of the ancient dervish. As I raised the camera for the 3rd time to get a good view of the blood-stained banner, I heard the voice of the old man muttering to himself as he entered the precincts. Instinctively, I looked back. He was standing and looking in my direction barely 2 yards away. I do not know why, but I probably could not readjust myself to changed conditions, and took the picture. The flash lighted the dim interior, brighter even than that of the blazing African day. Thoughts were chasing themselves through my mind. Would I be able to dash past him to freedom? Would a hue and cry be raised, and was the car still there for a quick getaway? Could I get the film out and allow the camera to be taken away and fob them off with that? I walked to the door and wished the shrine keeper peace. He made no attempt to stop me. I found out later that he was blind. for more than one reason, I decided that the time was ripe for a move, a rapid move northwards, then east to Lebanon, a tranquil land. I blessed the aeroplane, former object of my malice.